Have you ever wanted someone more the moment they pulled away? Have you ever found yourself obsessing over the one who wasn't interested, who barely responded, who left your messages hanging in the air like ghosts? It's not love. Not yet. It's something more primal, more twisted. It's the desire for something that refuses to be possessed. And that desire burns. But why? Why do we chase what hurts us? Why does rejection intoxicate us more than affection? Why is the one who ignores you somehow more desirable than the one who adores you? The answer is darker than you think. We desire not the object, but the obstacle that makes it desirable. Slavoj Žižek. It's not the woman you want. It's the chase, the distance, the impossibility. You don't want her kindness. You crave her absence. Because her absence gives her value. Her coldness gives her weight. Her silence makes you scream inside. And that scream? That's the fantasy. You think you're in control. But you're reacting to a carefully crafted illusion. One you helped build. She doesn't have to say anything. Her disinterest is the message. And your brain, shaped by evolution and distorted by fantasy, translates that into worth. If she's hard to get, she must be valuable. If she's distant, she must be superior. If she doesn't want me, I must need her. This is the male paradox. We long for love, but we chase rejection. Not because we're broken, but because our minds are wired to find meaning in resistance. That's the painful truth most men never question. And the more she withholds, the more she becomes the mirror for everything you lack. You project all your needs, all your desires, onto someone who gave you nothing. And still, you beg for more. But here's what's worse. Deep down, she knows this. Not intellectually, biologically, instinctively. Her beauty isn't just in her body. It's in her distance. It's in the subtle way she doesn't need you. She becomes the obstacle that makes you want her. Not because she's cruel, but because evolutionarily, she's signaling power. The woman who doesn't chase is more attractive than the one who does. Because in the ancient mind of the male, if she's not chasing, she must be chased. And if she can reject, she must be worth chasing. So what do? You try harder. You become nicer, more available, more attentive, more obsessed. And in doing so, you lose the very thing that might have made you attractive in the first place: your autonomy, your indifference, your sense of worth. Because the more you pursue her, the more you place her on a pedestal. And no woman desires the man who puts her above himself. It feels safe, yes, but not desirable. It feels devoted, but also desperate. You become a servant to the fantasy, a slave to your own desire. And she sees it. She feels it, even if she never says it. She knows when a man has fallen into this trap. When he no longer sees her, but worships her. When he's not relating to her, but kneeling before a goddess of his own projection. And the moment that happens, something shifts. The attraction dies. Not because she's heartless, but because women don't respond to being placed on a throne. They respond to being met, mirrored, challenged. So if she feels worshipped, she'll feel alone. Because you're no longer standing next to her, you're beneath her. And that's not love. That's fantasy. That's the illusion of closeness. Let me ask you this. Have you ever loved someone who didn't truly see you? Who didn't love you back? Have you ever mistaken longing for connection? If so, you're not alone. That pain, that quiet ache in your chest, it's the mark of a man who gave too much to an illusion. And maybe you're tired of doing that. If this hits something in you, tell me in the comments. I want to hear your truth. I want to know what you've given away in the name of devotion. Because that's what most men do when they fall into this spiral. They confuse surrender with love. They believe that giving everything, showing absolute devotion, being always available, will finally make her stay. But it doesn't. It makes her leave. Not always physically, sometimes emotionally, quietly, gradually. Like a flame burning out from lack of oxygen. You thought you were feeding the fire, but you were smothering it. Zizek was right. We don't desire the object. We desire the obstacle. The moment she becomes yours, she loses the power to haunt you. The fantasy dies in possession. The same pedestal you placed her on now turns into a stage of disappointment. Not because she changed, but because the illusion couldn't survive the light. You thought she was different. You imagined she would complete you. But what you fell in love with wasn't her. It was your need, your longing, your dream of being chosen. So you crafted her in your mind, perfect, distant, divine, and begged that she would one day validate the man you can't validate yourself. That's not love. That's self-erasure. Because when you chase a fantasy, you disappear. You silence your own voice. You shrink your needs. You perform, hoping to be enough. But being chosen isn't love when you have to disappear to deserve it. And this is the invisible tragedy of so many men. They think they're romantic, but what they are is invisible. Invisible to the woman who wanted a man with presence. Invisible to the self they abandoned in pursuit. Because devotion without boundaries isn't love. It's worship. And worship kills intimacy. There's no space for connection when one is on their knees. And yet, that's what you were told. That if you were good enough, kind enough, patient enough, love would arrive. But it didn't. Because she didn't want perfection. She wanted tension. That electric space between presence and distance. The magnetic field of polarity. She wanted to be near a man who had a center, a fire, a spine. Not someone orbiting her like a satellite. So when you gave her everything, she felt nothing. Because you left nothing to reach for. No edge to lean into. No gravity to pull her in. Desire isn't born in safety. It's born in friction. And maybe you felt that too. The bitter irony that the more you care, the less she does. That your loyalty didn't win her over. It pushed her away. That her eyes stopped lighting up the moment yours became desperate. And it hurts. God, it hurts. Because you didn't do it to manipulate. You did it to love. You showed up. You offered all of yourself. You hoped it would finally be enough. But here's what no one told you. She doesn't want to be the center of your world. She wants to meet you in yours. Not as a savior. Not as a goddess. As a woman. With flaws. With fears. With the freedom to be human. But if you never gave her that space, if you turned her into a dream, she had no choice but to reject it. Not you. The pedestal. Because no one wants to live where they can't breathe. And no woman wants to carry the weight of a man's missing identity. She wants to dance with your soul, not hold it together. She wants your mystery, not your dependence. She wants to feel your presence, not your need. And if all she felt was the pressure of being everything to you, she had to become nothing for herself. So she left. And you told yourself it was your fault. That you weren't enough. That you should have tried harder. But maybe you gave too much of what she never asked for. Maybe you gave her the performance of devotion. But not the truth of who you are. Because that truth, that edge, that fire, it's the very thing she was trying to feel. And you buried it beneath politeness, obsession, worship. But here's the question you need to ask now. Not, why did she leave? But, why did I abandon myself trying to make her stay? That question is the real wound. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that love meant sacrifice. Not mutual exchange. Not deep resonance, but silence. You were taught to suppress your instincts, dim your intensity, erase your chaos. All to be acceptable. All to be safe. And now, you find yourself in relationships where you're tolerated, not felt, desired briefly, then discarded. Not because you lack value, but because you gave up the only thing that makes someone unforgettable, your center. You see, what Zizek reveals, beneath the psychoanalysis and chaos of language, is this brutal paradox. We're drawn not to what we have, but to what we can't fully grasp. And it's the same with desire. You can't manufacture attraction through obedience. You can't be wanted through emotional submission. She doesn't crave a man who hands himself over. She craves the one she has to meet in the fire. Not the man who folds under her gaze, but the one who holds it. Not with arrogance, with presence. That rare, haunting calm of a man who doesn't perform. He simply is. Unapologetic, rooted, full of life beyond her. That's the obstacle Zizek was talking about. Not a barrier she hates, but one she longs to scale. Something in you that resists being possessed. A part of you that stays wild, even in love. And you? You gave that part away. You offered her everything except the one thing she truly wanted. Tension. Not drama. Not chaos. Tension. That electric sense of becoming. The thrill of chasing something alive, real, untamed. Because when you were nice, she was polite. When you worshipped, she withdrew. When you became her mirror, she shattered it. Because you stopped being you. And here's what most men don't understand. She doesn't want to own you emotionally. She wants to be pulled in emotionally. She wants to feel the weight of your gaze, not the desperation in it. She wants to be chosen, not begged. Desired, not pedestalized. You thought it was love, but it was fear in disguise. Fear of rejection, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. So you offered the safest version of yourself, and in doing so, you became invisible. You became the man she never truly saw. Not because she didn't look, but because there was nothing left to see. You erased yourself before she ever had the chance to love you. And now, maybe you find yourself angry. At women, at dating, at the world. But that anger, it's grief. Grief for all the years you betrayed your own soul. For all the smiles you faked, the words you swallowed, the edges you shaved down. To be loved, to be chosen, to be enough. But brother, let me tell you, you were never rejected for being real. You were rejected for not being whole. And wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means presence. It means standing in your truth, even if it costs you attention. It means being willing to lose her, so you don't lose yourself. Do you feel this too? That subtle ache of self-betrayal? That quiet regret of all the times you knew better, and still chose to shrink? Tell me in the comments. I want to read your pain. Not because I have all the answers, but because you deserve to be seen, even in the wounds. Especially in the wounds. Because that's where the real man begins. Not in how much he gives, but in what he no longer surrenders. Because what she's really testing is your resistance to losing yourself, not your willingness to lose her. That's the mistake. You thought love meant proving how far you'd go, how much you'd give up. But the real seduction is showing her how deeply rooted you are, how alive you remain, even in her absence. Desire doesn't bloom in captivity. It dies. She doesn't want a man who bends. She wants one who carries his edge with grace. Not sharp, not cruel, just undeniable. Because when you lose that edge, when you trade mystery for access, when you become her echo instead of her equal, you don't become lovable. You become replaceable. Here's the truth no one tells you. She may fantasize about a man who worships her, but she only feels for the man who makes her uncertain, not because he plays games, but because he has a world beyond her, a fire she didn't start, a silence she can't control. The paradox is brutal, but it's real. The more you try to secure her love, the more she doubts its value, because what's easily offered is rarely treasured, and what demands presence awakens desire. So if she left, if she pulled away after you gave your all, understand this. It wasn't your love she rejected. It was your self-abandonment. She didn't despise your devotion. She despised how it cost you your spine. Because a man who dissolves to keep her can never hold her. But the man who stays solid, even in the ache, even in the silence, even in the threat of being alone, that man is unforgettable. And here's what Žižek knew. We don't chase pleasure. We chase the resistance to it. We crave the one who makes us feel something we can't quite explain, because they haven't explained themselves away. So maybe it's time you stop chasing clarity, stop begging to be chosen, and start becoming the man who chooses himself first. that's when she feels it. That pull, that ache, that tension she can't rationalize and can't resist. Because now, she doesn't just see you, she feels you. Not as a fantasy, not as a servant, but as a man who could walk away and still be whole. If this spoke to something in you, if a part of you ached reading this, don't brush it off. That ache is the beginning. That ache is your compass. So start there. Start with the version of you who never begged, never chased, never folded. He's still in there. And if this made sense to you, if it felt like truth, subscribe. We need to talk more about what no one says out loud, not for likes, not for views, but because there are too many men still lost in the fantasy, and too few standing in their real,